Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another Timoredbeard video. This is part 2 of the Shoreline Miniseries, and in this series we're going to be talking about spawns. Which spawns, what spawns to look for, what spawns to worry about, and then how to make your route from where you spawn to resort most safe. If you do like this video, hit that like button, consider subscribing, and don't forget to caress that notification bell. Let's get to it. So, spawns on Shoreline. We're going to start with the west side of the map. And there's a lot of debate about whether it's the west side or the east side or whatever, but it is the side that has West Wing on it, so I'm going to call it the west side of the map. So, we've got, on this side of the map, a lot of spawns. And a few that aren't on here, actually. But we're going to go over them. This is a very, very common west side spawn. This one is very rare these days. It used to be a spawn that used to get quite regularly. In fact, you could get spawns both here and here, and they would have a fight almost immediately. I very rarely see this spawn, ever, anymore. This spawn, though, what we call North Swamp, happens very, very often. And when you're wanting to... when you're spawning here and you're wanting to head to resort, it's a very, very easy, straight up run directly up into west. There isn't too much to worry about on this run. It's quite unlikely that you'll run into other players. The only other players that you might run into is when you're there's a ridge here. And when you're running along this ridge to head over, you might find that there's a spawn right here, and they normally run like this to resort. So there's a chance that when you're up on this ridge and then when you're heading back down it, you're going to see this other spawn come this way. Though more often than not, this spawn doesn't happen because someone spawns further back into village, somewhere back down here. But it's something to keep an eye out for if you're a North Swan. Otherwise, if you've popped an SJ6, you can sprint straight into resort. Chances are you're going to be the first player into resort. Into the west side of resort, should I say. And there really isn't too much else to worry about. In terms of... just get rid of all this for a moment. In terms of this spawn right here. This spawn is what we call swamp spawn. This is a horrible spawn. Because getting out of the swamp is an absolute pain in the ass. Now, what I recommend you do is you hit the main path, get to the church, you come down here. So these sort of like lined areas are the marshy swamps that you can only walk through. And then you want to run along the top side of Suicide Fields. So like this is Suicide Fields right here. And it's called Suicide Fields because anyone that runs along them is suicidal because... you're going to get shot at from a whole host of different places. So you take the tree line running along the top of Suicide Fields here. And then once you get here, normally you run up to these rocks. And these rocks will generally allow you to intercept people that are running along this way, and also people that are running along this way. You've got sort of two places to watch out for. Now, when I talked about this spawn here, that when you're running straight to resort, if you spawn here and you beeline it straight to resort, you don't take your time, you will 100% not run into this spawn right here. Because this spawn takes so long to get out of swamp. By the time it's here, getting to the bottom of Suicide Fields, you're already like almost entirely the whole way to resort. So that's why I told you not to worry about it when I was talking about the first one. Anyway, that's what you want to do, and that's what you want to be careful for. Obviously, not everyone beelines it to resort. So perhaps this spawn is going a bit slower, which means that while you're in this spawn, you need to be careful for it. And also the same for the cottage spawn. And let's just get rid of all this again. You have this spawn right here, which is what we call Ruined House spawn. And it's effectively the same as Swamp spawn. You want to cut straight across here, and you want to head across the top of Suicide Fields, And from here, you want to be paying attention up here, and you want to be paying attention down here for people coming up from this way and people coming along from that way. You are very unlikely to run into players if you just run straight across here. However, if you are like on the hunt for players and you're not necessarily wanting to beeline it to resort, then you can actually come down the south side of Suicide Fields and take up position just here, just before the cottage. So you've got Suicide Fields here, you've got cottage here, and you've got village and downtown down here. And you can actually find a way to engage players this way. You can find a way to engage players this way. You can find a way to engage players this way. And there's a chance you might even be able to engage Sanitar this way. So if you're looking for some early action on Shoreline and you get this ruined house fence spawn, this is a great position to take up. However, we are focusing on heading straight to resort. So there are a load of spawns inside the village here, and only one will be active. The same for downtown. Only one will be active. So if you spawn here, there will be no other spawns inside this dotted box. And if you spawn here, there will be no other spawns inside this dotted box. However, there is an important thing to say. There's a PMC spawn listed here, but this spawn right here isn't listed. This spawn is outside of this dotted box and will be active if you spawn in downtown. So there's a good chance that you can spawn here and have players that spawn right in front of you there, which is arguably not the right way to balance it, but it happens. Anyway, from these spawns, you want to function pretty much the same way as the cottage spawn. So you want to head, straight out to the top side of downtown. You want to go over the north side of cottage, and you want to take this path up to resort. And on your run up, of course, you want to be watching out for people that are coming across the top side of Suicide Fields. And you want to be on the lookout for slow-moving people coming from North Swamp. So you're really wanting to look in these directions when you're making your run up to resort. Move all this. The last spawn is Tunnel Spawn. Tunnel Spawn sucks. If you want to run resort and you get Tunnel Spawn, double check yourself. Because if you run resort from Tunnel Spawn, one, you're guaranteed to be the last person to resort. And being the last person to resort is a big problem that's going to really mess you up. But if you do still want to go to resort, then the route I suggest taking is to run straight over the hills to the bottom corner of downtown, head up across the top of cottage, and then along like so. There is another way that you can run, which might arguably be a bit safer, but arguably for sure. Whereas you can run straight across here, follow this road the whole way up, and then cut across. This route is slightly slower, but slightly safer. Let's just undo all of these. So in general, on West Side, hotspots for fighting during the early stages are in this area right here. You often get the meeting of multiple spawns around this area right here. And then if nothing happens there, also this area right here, where of course every spawn is coming into this circle to jump over to get into West. So these are the areas to be mindful of. Now on the east side of the map, we have a very spread out set of spawns, and we'll start up here. Now this spawn doesn't exist. Neither does this spawn, and neither does this spawn. I have never ever seen them ever appear. So I do not believe they exist anymore. They might have in the past, but they definitely don't now. This spawn, however, definitely does exist, and it is arguably the strongest spawn in the entirety of Shoreline if you're trying to play Resort. And because of that, you just run straight here, you jump over. Now, there are a lot of different things that you can do. This run, you will get there so fast that you absolutely have nothing to worry about. This spawn has moved. This spawn now spawns down here. And so basically because of that, this spawn is going to do one of two things. It's going to come this way, or it's going to come this way. If it goes up to the north-hand side here, you will be inside the fence before they even get there. If they come down, then this is where the first bit of PvP happens for these spawns. My personal playstyle, if I get this spawn, I run down the very outside of the fence over to this building right here, and I take up position on this corner and I look out this way. And the reason I look out this way is because you're going to have someone coming up this spawn right here, jumping up the rocks. You're also going to have someone coming along here, jumping up the rocks. You're going to have someone coming up here, jumping up the rocks. You're going to have someone here, jumping up the rocks. Being this spawn gives you a massive advantage to get set up over here and be prepared for all these other spawns pushing your location. Now, I normally like to sit there for 15, 20, 30 seconds, but if it's too quiet, then there are some things to think about. And those things to think about is, okay, did they go up and did they take helicopter in? Did they run up the ramp and take helicopter in? It's a much slower route, arguably not as safe, but it avoids this initial PvP. Did they come up, and did they come up through admin? There's a lot of questions, and it's impossible to answer any one of them within one raid, right? So what I do is I sit there for 15, 30 seconds, I watch these spares. If it's quiet and I don't get into any action, I run along to the north-hand side of East, which if you watch my first video, you'll know where that kicked off for the key and route video, and head on in. And at which point, I will take control of some windows right here. There are some windows right here, and that will allow you to take control of helicopter, take control of here, and take control of half of the south entrance to East. Now, if you get this spawn over here, which is this one moved, then you need to be careful. And the reason why you need to be careful is because the quickest way to resort is to come up these rocks and in. However, this spawn often likes to be naughty, and naughty in many different ways. This spawn may, knowing that you're going to spawn there and run up those rocks, may have come up here, came outside and hid. There's a little rock right here, and they've hid behind that rock, waiting to hear you jump up, jump, peek out, headshot, or spray you down, kill you. So if you do get this spawn, you need to be very careful. When you get to the top of these rocks here after jumping, you need to make sure you've got painkillers on. This is very, very important. You need to make sure you got painkillers on. You need to clear your sectors. You need to clear north of you. You need to clear the fence area. You need to clear the jump over. And you need to clear down here, because there might also be people running up the rocks this way. Next up, we have these spawns down here. Now, this spawn, and this spawn all kind of do exactly the same thing if they're all trying to play resort. This spawn will run directly across here. This spawn will scoop up here. And this spawn will normally come up behind the arch and run this way, but sometimes we'll just run straight up as well. As you can see, this creates a serious meeting point right here. And there is often a lot of fights that happen right at this point. So you need to be careful. You need to be head on a swivel. You need to be clearing your angles. And you can't just be blasé running just straight up to resort. Just like, do. You'll get your head blown off. But also on this run, especially if you're not running an SJ6 and your endurance level isn't too great, you need to be careful about behind you. Because this spawn, this spawn, this spawn, this spawn, and this spawn are all going to be beelining it up behind you. And if you're not moving fast, they will see you and they will get shots on you. So this is one of the reasons why I highly recommend you SJ6 it into resort. If you're planning on playing resort, you just get one of those SJ6s. They're 30k, 35k. They're a tiny amount of the money that you would make from a successful resort run. and they're going to improve your chances of getting inside the building. Every resort player will tell you that the worst thing is not making it inside. Dying before you get there sucks. So these 3 spawns, if you get them, you need to make sure that you're watching out for the other spawns, because all 3 of these spawns can be live at the same time. It's important to note, if there's a lot of solos in the map, then all 3 of these spawns can be live at the same time. They don't cancel each other out at all. And you need to be ready for fights. Not only just here, but also once you're coming up the rocks, you need to be ready to fight the north spawn and what we call close east. There, you know, we've got a spawn coming this way, a spawn coming this way. You've got multiple spawns engaging this way. It's part of what makes Shoreline so fun. It's just the sheer amount of action that you can run into very quickly on the map. So, those are those 3 spawns. You need to make sure that you're watching out for the other spawns that are going to be running towards resort in the same way, and also for the spawns running up from behind. If you get this spawn down here, this spawn's cancelled out, this spawn's cancelled out, this spawn is not cancelled out, I will push straight up and push this guy. Because if this guy hasn't moved off, I'm going to make him my bitch. But if you're this spawn, it's just very important that you remember this guy down here and this guy right here. You're going to either chase him or you're going to prepare for this guy. Those are your 2 options, and you got to be smart about it. Now, if you get either one of these spawns, this spawn or this spawn, it will cancel out all the other spawns on this side. So if you do get any of those 2 middling spawns, then you do not need to worry about anyone else being this side of the road. However, this spawn will not cancel out this spawn. So you need to be aware of that. Now, there are a few more bits here. You've got the construction spawn down here and CCP temporary. These will cancel each other out. So if you spawn on this side, this one won't spawn. If you spawn on this side, this one won't spawn. However, this one will not cancel out this one. So these 2 spawns can definitely fight. Especially if you spawn construction and you head out this way and up, there's a good chance you're going to run into this spawn right here. However, if you head on up this way, which is normally my recommended way, you need to be careful of this spawn, because this spawn will not cancel out this spawn. This spawn will definitely still be live if you spawn here. And so will this spawn. So when you're running up this side, you need to make sure that you're clearing your right-hand side. You're also clearing in front of you as you move. But it can be to your advantage. I have spawned here a few times and just run up on the backside of people that have been running to resort and not really paying a lot of attention. These sort of middling spawns are kind of annoying spawns to get. If someone spawns here and decides to get up on top of the arch, you're kind of screwed. Because they will easily have the advantage on you in terms of altitude, in terms of sight lines, and in terms of cover. So when I spawn at these 2 spawns, the thing that I like to do is actually, let's just undo those. When I spawn at these 2 spawns, I like to run like so. And the reason for that is that this spawn will have moved well off. This spawn will find it hard because you have tons of cover all along here in terms of rocks, in terms of bushes, in terms of tree line, etc, etc, etc. Once you get up here, you've got tree cover covering you pretty much the whole way along here. This spawn's not going to be able to do anything to you whatsoever, unless they're like thermaling it up, and then, well, shit RNG. Anyway, this has been pretty much the Shoreline spawns. It's just really important to know all of the spawns. It's really important to know where they're going to be, what you need to be watching out for, and what the best plan of action is to make. I always say it's very important to have a plan. Don't just wing it. Reactions are great, plans are better. If you have any questions, please do chuck them in the comments below. I'd be more than happy to answer them. I hope this has really helped you guys. I stream on Twitch Tuesday through Saturday starting at 12 PM GMT. So if you have any questions at all about Shoreline, if you need some help, then please feel free to drop in. Come and ask the questions. I'll be happy to answer anything that you've got to ask. I really do hope this has helped. I know that it's just been a top-down map thing. It would take a very, very long video to show you all of this in-game, right? So I don't want to waste your guys' time, which is why I've done it via a map. But let me know in the comments if this hasn't made enough sense to you and you would actually prefer to see an in-game version of all the different spawns and stuff. Let me know. I'd really appreciate that. Let me know how I can do better, you know? Anyway, guys, I've been Timoredbeard. This has been Shoreline Miniseries Part 2. Spawns and what to watch out for, how to get to Resort. There's going to be one more video in the series, which is going to be inside Resort, and we're going to be talking about callouts, and we're going to be talking about fighting in Resort, flanks, and all those sorts of things. So look forward to that. Make sure you hit the notification button so you know when it's coming out. But anyway, I've been Timoredbeard. Hope you guys have enjoyed this. Catch you next time.